good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for that. It's very interesting to hear. And to build on the Winston Churchill quote, I think I'm going to repeat a few of those points because some of them are very fundamental. My name is Julian Elliott, Chief Data Officer at Dentsu Aegis Network. And I want to talk about attribution because many of us in the room will know that attribution is actually very simple and very straightforward. So there's a big question out there, why isn't every organization doing it? And that's because many of the established techniques are seen to be slow-moving. We've heard from other speakers yesterday and today about how we can derive a lot of value from combining different analytical approaches. Attribution is exactly the same. There are literally two worlds colliding. The existing world of the well-known, well-understood, well-respected market mix modeling or econometrics, and the newer, faster, more disruptive digital attribution. And they are very different in their nature and their characteristics. One is relatively slow-moving, as we've heard. Strategic decisions are great from the econometrics point of view. One is much faster, and the data volumes and the data sets involved are hugely different. Aggregated weekly data versus millions or even billions of rows describing real customer journeys. But there is value in working to make these two worlds come together so that organizations can benefit and have the best of both worlds. Before I get into that, let's just talk about some of the barriers. Why isn't this happening? And I had some conversations across lots of our clients in the last year or so. And the first perceived barrier is complexity. Too much data, too hard to collect, need it consistent over too long a time frame. Multiple data sets, and the concerns about the variability of that data in terms of its quality. And very often for the teams trying to implement attribution, they don't own this data. They have to procure it and find it from other parts of the organization or external parties. And then, as we've heard, there are many different methodologies, and there is not consensus on which are the best methodologies, and that can lead to some analysis paralysis. Furthermore, many organizations have tried to implement attribution in the past, and they haven't always had great experiences. First of all, the difficulty in getting the analytics done. More often, this is related to corralling and wrangling the data to get it into a fit state to do the analysis in the first place. But then the time frame that elapses from kicking off the project to be able to have interpretable results is too long for many organizations. And organizations find themselves unable to balance the dichotomy of being precisely wrong by using techniques such as last-click attribution with being approximately right from using econometrics or other techniques. And because of the siloed nature of many organizations, budgets being held in different places, when findings are presented that require budgets to move across departments, this definitely slows down activation of the learnings. But the right approach is total attribution, the idea that we can bring together marketing mix modeling and digital attribution so we get the best of both worlds. That means you need to have both of these worlds up and running in your business. Econometrics to explain all the drivers and understand your base sales, but also in the detailed area where you might have hundreds of millions or even billions of rows to be able to do that high-speed digital attribution. The key thing, as we heard already, is to scale the output so that you get back to a total number of sales that your CFO, your CMO, and your CEO will recognize. This is essential for credibility of the exercise. So what does this look like in practice? We've been working with an organization called Monster, a very well-known online recruitment agency, and running projects like this for them. So we started off with one project in one country. And here are the findings from that first project. None of them by themselves are standout, but collectively they've enabled a very impressive change in how this business is approaching its marketing. TV being a vital long-term driver, but then inside that, understanding how the different aspects of TV and even beyond that, online video, to be able to optimize all the mix inside that TV has been very important. Performance marketing, working alongside other media investments. And thirdly, competitor activity. It's not a big surprise that competitor activity impacted revenues, but the quantum of this impact was much larger than the client had previously suspected, and actually the breadth of that competitor activity was more surprising to them. So that has led them to review and change how they invest in media through time. And finally, the ability or the necessity of maintaining a strong presence throughout the year, because now they can understand, if they come away from that strong presence, how long it takes to rebuild it. And overall, in one market, within 1 year, they are able to generate 20 to 30% improvement on the return on the entire marketing investment budget. And as a consequence of that, we've now worked with them to deploy this same technique across another 5 to 10 markets. So, let's bring that back to a summary. So often, the great is the enemy of the good. It really pays to start small and think big with attribution projects. The key thing is to create the common business metrics, financial-based metrics, metrics that have currency beyond just the marketing department. Obviously, top-level commitment is required. An iterative approach is the best one, because each iteration unlocks value, provides new insight, and the projects become self-funding. And speaking from an agency perspective and my own personal perspective of having been a client previously, the organisations which understand attribution models have in place a framework that is relatively robust. This just changes the dynamic of the client-agency relationship. It means those conversations become value-based, they become much more productive, and worrying about the cost and the quality of the media becomes secondary, because it's the outcomes that are being driven and the optimization to allow those is happening in a framework that everybody believes in. So, in summary, attribution is very easy and every organization should be doing it. Thank you very much.